Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, dear listeners. My name is Ironbound Ghost. Feel free to call me Ghost or Ghosty. Hello, Scallywag Pringle. Nice good morning. We are back today with just a little more Magia Record. Cleaned up my inventory just a little bit. We're going to be trying to finish a few more of these gacha rolls before end of service in about 5 hours. So, I just figured we'd see how far we can go. Hope you had a good day this past day. Or if not, I hope your evening's looking better. Before we get right into this whole gacha business, I figured I would do a little bit of the upgrade pass for the units we acquired yesterday in that phenomenally bizarre last end of the pity roll. Good, you've had a good day. That's excellent. I've had a pretty okay one myself. A bit busy, but as things tend to be. But all in all, quite reasonable. So we're just gonna get this done here. I'm not sure if it's at all relevant now, but we can actually switch the audio on these. This is just adding, I guess, equipment slots. That's what happens when you get duplicates of any given unit, so we're actually going to be rolling on the same banner today for a little while longer and see if anything else miraculous and strange happens. And I should probably, last unit we got, might as well bother to do all this leveling up business. Last hurrah and all that. I don't suppose I actually need to conserve any of these resources, because I can guarantee gonna go play with friends, just wanted to join and see how it appreciate you coming by. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you have a good time with your friends and everything. And if I don't see you later today, I hope you stop by, say, on Friday when we return to the Elden Ring shenanigans. In any case, until next time, take care and travel safe. Don't fall over, and remember that you are precious and unique in all the world, and that is a very valuable thing to be. Alright? But in any case, I say trying not to unplug everything in front of me, because I need to make this setup significantly less scuffed. We can, I think, sort all this out now here. Thank you. We can make the audio volume on this louder, just a little bit. I don't have a comparative impression of how loud these are. So, hello, Stella Scarlet. Nice to see you stopping by. Feel free to loiter for some time. I would say probably no self-promotion in chat, but again, feel free to stick around and watch some end-of-service gacha shenanigans. Let's see. I'm hoping I have the resources to do any of this, really. Of course, having not played the game in ages, I don't actually remember what's in my pockets. No, that is an impression I did get. Not a bot. Just, self-promotion in chat. The Twitter and things. But again, thank you for stopping by. Feel free to loiter some. Let's see. Gotta love display connections. Oh dear. But, we are just cleaning things up here. In order to, just get everything sorted before the end of the game. In a couple hours. Oh. I did not actually want to click through that entire animation. Whoops. That is my bad. Gonna let this run a little bit, because I always like taking screenshots from the card screens here. I mean, you know, you never know with things on the Twitter, I'm afraid, because I don't I only use it a little bit. So yeah, no, don't see anything showing up. So I don't know, perhaps you might have missaw something. Nothing showing up right now. But either way, like I said, no big deal. Anyway, well,
もし選ぶとするなら、私の感情を揺さぶってくれる人かしら。その条件だけなら、心みたいな人が最適。私みたいな人?
Yeah, sorry. I normally I always end up stopping for the character voices, even though, of course, at this point, in terms of having these as a record, it's a guarantee someone has like properly recorded these in high fidelity. I mean, that's I believe that does count, and also, like, legit, I don't see you showing up on any notifications on my Twitter, so, you know, perhaps that may have been mistaken there. So, but in any case, we can close this up. All in order. One thing about obtaining a bunch of resources and just sort of letting them sit there is definitely the fact that you can get the you can just level everyone up very abruptly. And I don't know, it's someone need to see that instead of the slow inexorable grinding. Just being able to go, oh, I want you to be level 100. We can work with that. So we've got the free daily with friend points, or whatever they call them in this game. And I don't actually remember if they've added anything new to this, to the friend point gacha since I was last on here. In all likelihood, no. Also, because I can't read the menu, I did not set this up to automatically burn the lower rarity items. I mean, which is probably just as well. I think usually I do that because there are sometimes units you can get that are added to the free gacha that are irregular. I don't remember if they did that with this game or if I was just, like, I couldn't read the interface in the JP version and never actually set up the auto features. But one thing I like about the friend points thing in here is there's a fair frequency of getting that 4-star memorias or equipment cards. So that's always nice. But then, of course, you've got about 50 million things that aren't that. But I did rather like how the friend points was set up in this game. Just because I don't know, it was decent for allocating resources appropriately. And then we've had free dailies that I have been completely missing on the story gacha. Story banner, I don't even... Again, this is a complete lack of memory of who's available, who's been added. But we'll go through this. Yep. And we're nowhere near pity on this, so I don't think we're going to be sitting on this banner much more. So I guess that was probably the last commemorative roll on that one as well. But then we'll be rolling for these two a few more times, just to see if we can finish out the equipment slots. Again, not that it's worth too much at this point, but I don't know, the completionist in me says I have a bunch of rolls, let's give it a chance. So I'd like to see what how far we can go in the last time allotted. But also using the power of seeing what the background tells us about the incoming card. Very good for skipping through this at least a little bit quicker than letting the full animation run. Obviously, if you just keep tapping rapidly, you could aggressively skip through things. But I do like actually having everything appear on screen just in case I tap through it. I don't know, because I've clicked through opening animations before in the past. More the fool am I. So we try not to do that in this establishment. But yeah, in the future, I'm going to back up the details of this account once more, just in case, for reference. And then hopefully the archive app that's set to come out after the end of service will be more functional than the one that happened in NA. But theoretically, we're also supposed to be getting some sort of code that lets us transfer at least a little bit of our progress in some fashion. It's unclear what fashion. To the next game they'll have. So I think I am going to try to play that one on stream. It might be short streams every day, or it might be doing a little bit of things off stream and then doing a stream or two a week of actually playing through the game in a more involved way. I am not sure yet. Sort of thinking about what would work best for fitting into my schedule such as it is. It might be a matter of simply figuring that out on a week-to-week basis, which, I mean, is approximately how my schedule is yet now for everything but Friday, so at least it won't stand out too much. There are still a couple of games that I want to get to playing through. Oh! Nat 4-star. I think? No? No, I mean, yes. CE, though. Memoria. I always mix up the equipment card names between games. I suppose because a lot of them use the same conceit. I think Honkai Star Rail may also. The conceit of these being something like crystallizations of memories. Which is a very good conceit to use. Means you can have very nice little pictures of mementos and what have you as the card face. I feel like they could probably make a pretty penny selling commemorative, not even necessarily commemorative, but just like, and not even a TCG as much as selling or like even custom printing packs of these, you know, somewhere, but not quite fully bringing the whole gacha into real life. But I know, for example, Fate Grand Order Arcade allows you to do, or I'm not sure, I'm not entirely clear if it's part of the actual main gameplay, or if it's merely something it allows you to do, but to have printouts of the craft essences and servants that you've rolled for in that game, which I think is a nice touch, and also provides a very involved secondary market, which is all well and good, because the prices don't rise too obscenely high even in the West, because cards, of course, individual cards and envelopes, even in reinforced envelopes, ship relatively easily, at least to my understanding. And relatively cheaply, that is to say. But it's interesting that's not something they overly capitalize on. I mentioned yesterday one of the few items of merch that I really have from the Magia Record side of the Madoka franchise is an acrylic card, right? That shows one of the characters who always spooked me a lot. Oh, nice. Another 4-star Memoria. But yeah, on NA, who one of the characters who always spooked me. And that bears the image of the, I guess, I don't know, I don't remember the English term for in this game, but I guess the equivalent of the first ascension in Grand Order. That art of the character, so what you'd see when you roll them in the banners. And so I just have that on my shelf over there, and I think that's a really neat concept to be able to display. They wouldn't have to do acrylics for everyone, although I think keeping up that line of merchandise for more popular characters might have been a good idea. I mean, I don't know. How am I to say? I'm just a single, mildly eclectic consumer, after all. But it is a neat idea that I don't think enough people capitalize on in their card building, digital deck building, some sort of games. And you know, some of them are sufficiently popular, right? Not every single mobile game of the same variety gets to be big like that, but a number of them do. I don't know, I guess we'll see if anyone tries to fill that little market niche at some point. Or if it will be left to the likes of Weiss Schwartz, I think, is the company that has a bunch of tie-ins with other properties. I mean, that might be what's preventing people from going all in on the commemorative, like, physical versions of their in-game cards, is that tying into what is theoretically an existing game with a fair amount of market reach might be more profitable and less overhead. Again, I wouldn't necessarily know. I suppose it might be a matter of because that might just be a matter of licensing appropriately and consulting people on art. Not that I have much awareness of if anyone actually plays that particular TCG. Like, I see the advertising for it on when you look at merchandise for any particular franchise. Ooh, that group picture there, that's the indication we're gonna have an at 4-star. A character card one, even. So that's neat to see. Note that doesn't necessarily mean it will be the elemental type pictures on the left. When you see an elemental type pictured on the left, it guarantees one of your cards will be a character card of that type, but it doesn't guarantee it'll be the it'll be the nat 4-star. I believe there is a guarantee of I think some rarity level combination. Oh, see, there's the dark type card, and not the 4-star. But I know there are some guarantees per 10 roll in terms of what you get. I think one of them involves 3-star memorias, and something like that. I don't remember entirely what it is. It's been so long since I've seen basically any parts of the interface in English. Oh, but here we go is the character card, light card, so the exact opposite of what may or may not have been implied. Oh, new one. Always the magical girl transformation sequences. I think she's from one of the other spin-off series, Tart Magica. I'm not 100% sure, being as that I have not read that one, or finished reading it, I suppose is more accurate. I started it, but didn't get very far before a bunch of things came up. I really should get around to it, because that is one of the spin-off series. Oh, hi, Justice Design. Nice to see you. What a lovely time for you to arrive and see what is on screen. Yup, indeed. Yeah, we're just going through a bunch of the remaining free rolls that have been accumulating like mad for, I suppose, the last, I think, 2 months, little over 2 months worth that were in my inventory. I think they were giving out free 10 rolls on a banner, on the banner of Pick Your Own Limited raid-up character, just ever since they announced End of Service, which is fairly generous of them. I suppose it doesn't really cost them anything, because once you announce End of Service, I believe they have to stop accepting people actually buying stuff. So to keep that interest up, I suppose that is what they would do. And, I suppose you could also get people who hear about it through the end of service announcement and everyone getting all up in arms and want to actually start the game in that time, right? Indeed. And then that would pull them into, because they already have the advertising lined up for the spiritual successor or the next mobile game or the next... I don't even know if it's... I don't know the details of what they've announced for the next one yet, but there's already advertising around it, and you can pull in things from this game. I don't know to what extent, but like some things. So if they get people looking in and being interested here, even at end of service, then that is of course potentially new players to pull into the new game where they could spend all of their oodles of cash or something, right? Yep, exactly. There might be people hearing about it who, I don't know, like the art style and like the gameplay or whatever, but haven't even heard of Madoka, which is always a kind of interesting thing to think about. People who get into some of these games that are very involved in the world they're set in, but that just don't... This is their first experience with the source material. And I suppose that kind of makes sense in terms of just how the mobile game and gacha advertising on the Play stores will push things to people if they've been into other gacha games, or people who are here for the gameplay as opposed to as opposed to following in from the like existing implications of a storyline. They're just like, I like this style of gameplay. Let's pick one that has that style of gameplay, that has a decent story, and that looks nice. I suppose that's one way people could get into it too. So, but it's an interesting thing to think about. And I suppose unrelatedly, I really should finish watching the anime for this game, because I never finished doing that. I mean, there are a lot of anime in my queue that I need to get around to finishing up. Didn't know about Madoka until you were forcibly thrown into it, so you can see people not knowing about it prior to the game. Yeah, that would, I suppose, depending on what's in your algorithm, in terms of what the wider advertising. Yes, there is an anime for this. Correcto. There's, I think, either 2 parts or 2 seasons, kind of unclear. But, yeah, it is out. It did reasonably well, I think, or at least it wasn't aggressively, it did not become that thing we don't talk about too aggressively, as far as I know. Again, I've been out of the metaphorical and literal game for a hot minute, but I think it had the whole... They did some things quite aggressively differently in terms of, like, they just made some diverging plot choices, so it is very much doing its own thing with the things established in the game, which I suppose might have been in some way smart, because it's going to be very hard to condense into an engaging anime something that has a lot of like interior character thoughts or a lot of side backstories you can follow off into the weeds if you want to optionally. It would be hard to flesh all of that out completely, and also for something that brings in so many of the implications from prior media properties and prior spin-offs from the original series itself. It would make sense that they would just go, we're gonna be, I guess, a bit like Grand Order's anime, although at least the parts of that I've seen, they didn't have like enormously glaring structural differences, it felt like. Obviously, that's another one of the things in my queue that I need to actually just sit down and get through. But like as far as I'm aware, the anime for this game, for example, just introduced a whole new central character. No details given. Just near the start, just a whole other character. And I don't know how that worked out, but like that's the sort of major structural difference I really mean. I suppose that one in specific. I'm not sure how that worked out for everything else, but that's yeah. And as I said, in some ways it might be smart of them to just be like establishing immediately they might do their own thing. So it's not just people saying, "Oh, I've played the game, though I don't need to watch this." Instead, being able to go, "Okay, but you've played the game, but you don't entirely know what's going to happen here, right? And moreover, you might not, you might not know what's going to happen, and things might be different, and watch more to find out, and stuff like that. Oh, 4-star cards. A lot of ones I haven't gotten before, just because I haven't been playing the game. I think they just dumped everything that didn't have a licensing issue into this singular banner, because, I mean, why not? It's weird that the anniversary units aren't actually in this banner, though, or in a secondary adjacent one, because you'd think, as a last hurrah for the game, they'd want to include those, especially because a couple of them are fairly iconic, like Ultimate, like the Madoka and Homura, like the devil/god dichotomy ones, and some others would be on that list, right? So interesting choice they made. It's possible that there was an earlier banner for them that I merely missed, because I in the last 2 months since they announced this, I managed to completely forget about it for quite a while, and was abruptly reminded yesterday, or the night before, maybe yesterday, when a server I was in was like, by the way, remember, if you're going to back up your account data, you got to do it now. And then I was like, wait, it's tomorrow? And so it was. And that's why this stream and last night's were quite unplanned. Oh, I suppose you didn't see last night's. It's not on the Twitch channel right now, because I had to edit a handful of things, because I accidentally showed my phone screen, like the home screen, and there wasn't anything super sensitive on there, thankfully, and I pulled it immediately. But I was like, that's a little too personal in my heart. So I'm gonna be uploading that tonight. I have the software to just cover that up, because I have all the image assets, because I drew them. There's a Nat 4-star in this role. But I just wanted to fix that. Some minor stuff like that. But it will be up on the VOD channel tonight, I guess, as long as uploading it doesn't take a million years. And likewise, this one should be hopefully going up basically immediately, or I'll probably try and upload them in order, so this one will go after that one. Well, gosh, it does happen sometimes, because I was trying to do some stuff with the downloading. Oh, water, nice. Downloading updates. I do have a YouTube VOD channel. It has several 100% more things. Nice roll. Several 100% more things than the main channel, because the main channel, I still need to edit, like, the slideshowy part of my debut video into something that doesn't have a bunch of dead air, and just drop it on the main channel, because that is theoretically for things that are, edited and vaguely coherent. Yep. And then I've got a third channel that is for things that are, experimental, I suppose. I mean that in the sense of, I don't know a lot about how the algorithm, quote-unquote, works, right? But obviously, VOD channel is just for VODs. Main channel is going to be things that are, like, reasonably edited. So, like, if I want to play something off-stream that's long and tedious, and upload the entire recording, and obviously you don't want to have an 8-hour-long video of me playing the game of Sisyphus, for example, right? The links are below. The links are below. They're in the About section, or the panels, description panels, or what have you. I think I even clearly labeled them. Although you are making me think I perhaps should highlight them more often. I believe I did resolve to begin mentioning them in my outro, for just such as this, in fact. Yeah, if you go to the main homepage on Twitch, it'll have a link to the main YouTube VODs channel. I own a clip channel. It has nothing in it because I am not good with clips or possibly just need practice with them. That's more likely. But I have it in case of future need. And it has nothing on it right now and probably won't for even more of the foreseeable future than anything else, of course. Indeed, there's, all of the VODs up there except for, obviously, yesterday's, which will be going up tonight, and then one that is, not there because, permissions issue, so that one won't be going up. I guess that would be a exclusive, if you were there, you were there, unfortunately. That was just the first part of the, My Next Life is Villainous, it's not really a visual novel, but I guess it is the visual novelification of the ostensibly not a visual novel. Yeah. But yeah, so that one's not up, but everything else is. A lot of Elden Ring, some of the Silent Hill game, one episode of I Am Bread, which I want to get back to, but that's probably going to stay if I need a random game sort of thing. And then these. There are definitely a number of other games I hope to play in the near future. I'm slowly becoming enticed toward playing Metal Gear. I need to figure out a sensible order for starting through it. I think I heard start with Metal Gear Solid, but I wanna verify that first. Now that I've figured out how to properly hook my phone up to a capture card, something. Yeah, there a lot of things of that sort. Yeah. But yeah, I've got some puzzle games on the phone that would be pretty fun to play. Just because I like the ergonomics on the phone better. For the puzzle boxes, the room puzzle box games, and the hidden object games, which I like a lot, but they are very, chill sort of games. Yeah, timeline. I have heard timeline is a strong word for anything there. Yep. Yeah, that is definitely a mix of vibe games versus here is a actual plot, or here's action and shooting things type games. And it's probably just going to depend heavily on, what I feel on any given day, how much time I have to devote to a stream, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And we are still clicking through. We still have like 40 of these to go. I'm not sure how long they will take even clicking through them quickly. Good gracious. But yeah, do you have any game recommendations that you think would be entertaining to see streamed? By someone who statistically has probably not seen or heard hide nor hair of them? Because there are a lot of things that are like, oh, everyone's played this that I just have not or have not heard of. Because I tend to get into, like, one given interest and it'll branch out to the next one, but everything that's not directly associated with it lives in the void until I run face first into it, mostly. So that leaves a lot of the, the often cited as quite good games out there in the void of space. As well as just I had Nintendo consoles growing up, not handheld consoles, and that was it. And that leaves out a lot of the classics from stuff like PlayStation, or Xbox. I don't know how exclusive Xbox games have historically been, so I wouldn't necessarily be one to speak on that. But certainly 'tis one of the subcategories. And I guess PC games technically too, because for a while in college I actually had a Mac for most of that time, so I was very much limited to selecting games that can be played on a Mac in the early years, which was less wide of a library than it is now. Many of the games you recommend aren't in my wheelhouse. I mean, you never know. Feel free to suggest them if you think of any. I'm willing to give it most genres a try at least once, for certain. So, always a possibility. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mac Selections, I was looking for back a good number of years ago now, quite a number of years ago, when when I was getting that Mac. I was looking for, maybe get into an MMO. But in terms of, and I was, in terms of things that were both available on a Mac, purportedly good, and, I don't know, just some of the other features I was looking for or something. I don't even remember what the full list was. The list was short and included quite a number of things that were in, like, beta or possibly even pre-beta at the time, and I was like, well, that's a list. I think I still am on the email lists for a couple of those games, and some of them have been in the not technically fully released state for about 1,000,000 years now. Although I think a few might be getting out of it, so I'll have to explore those at some point. If nothing else, so I can decide whether I need to stop getting emails from them. But I think I tried playing World of Warcraft at some point, actually. Of all things. It wasn't necessarily that it wasn't interesting, so much as I think I kept getting lost was the issue. I didn't make it out of the starting area. I just got lost, which is an issue with me in basically anything with navigation. If I put enough time into it, I'll eventually remember whatever the route is, but until then, I will be backtracking so much and probably never find my way to the intended destination without a minimap. Or more than a minimap. Possibly an entire, very detailed map. Which is, I guess, something appreciated about Elden Ring. Becoming less lost is much more doable, and also the ability to teleport places is much appreciated there. Yeah, I think I would not have progressed so far as I have on the in the plot, if you could call that progression with the amount of hours I put into it, but nevertheless, if the navigational tools were not as sophisticated as they are. Half of the fun of open worlds getting lost, and yeah, I mean it is a lot. Which is like, it is definitely something I like about open worlds, but that does come at the expense of, for example, I never finished Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because open world and ability to just sort of wander off when I see something that looks cool. And for Elden Ring, that manifests as skipping the first chunk of a lot of people's story and plot presences, their storylines or quests or what have you. And as a result, being incredibly confused when I see them in wherever I first meet them that is not the correct place. There's at least 2 characters I'm like, am I supposed to have seen them again? Where are they? Am I supposed to have seen them at all? And sometimes this isn't even fully illuminated by looking up, where do you go next? Or, like, I have definitely been keeping a list of itinerary points. Actually, speaking of my list of itinerary points, you seem to have some knowledge when I was on Elden Ring the other day. I continued playing through getting the unalloyed gold needle and then going up going around the roofs of the town of Celia. And lighting the fires and what have you, and opening up the way to the, I guess, chapel sort of thing at the top. And approximate knowledge of some things, always good. And there's the, in that chapel or church or whatever it used to be, because it's quite dilapidated now, there's a character called Millicent, and the instructions given are to deliver the unalloyed gold needle. But the curse of that approximate knowledge of some, but not all things, is that I'm aware that said needle is necessary for detaching yourself from one of the more on fire endings, but I'm not actually sure if the way that you do that is to deliver it here or to hold on to it until a later point. So, do you want to give me advice on that? And by advice, I mean you can totally lie to me to get me to end up in whatever random ending, and I would not know the difference because I'm not going to look it up. If you give me an answer now, I will just go, we're doing it. So then, do you have a direction to go there? Because otherwise, I'll just sort of leave it alone until a later date, and then end up making a fairly random decision. I might actually flip a coin. I might actually flip a coin if we progress far enough and the game has not given me any further story hints. So it would merely be rescuing me from the clutches of true randomness, after all. Can tell you you're on the right track on believing the needle is necessary for avoiding the "we didn't start the fire" ending. Yeah, but do I need to hold on to it or deliver it as I have been directed? That's the point of contention. That's the point of contention. Or I suppose, will the opportunity to deliver it disappear if I simply wait to see if I'm given further hints on the matter? I suppose that might be it. We're about to hit pity again, which I guess is fair. We're not really putting our heart of the cards into things as thoroughly as perhaps we could. And it's not 3 a.m. That is the statistically best time to be rolling the gacha. So says my extremely anecdotal experiences. But it has always been 2 to 3 in the morning when I've gotten the best and somewhat most desperate random YOLO rolls. So if that says something, it says something. You don't remember if giving Millie loses the needle or if when stuff occurs, it I see. So because my approximate knowledge of many things tells me I think she gets like an arm or something from this process or something, and also that you can be super rude and like take it from her by way of stabbing or something like that. I think I'm thinking of the right game. That's the problem with having approximate knowledge of many FromSoft games, all of which have a very similar gameplay style, and for which speedruns all take approximately like similar shapes of just sort of doing many things, is that your approximate knowledge might belong to completely the wrong game. And we've got the preview image in the start screen showing we are going to get the Nat 4-star, which makes sense because we are in the middle of hitting the pity counter. And we're not getting in here, so next one should be... Yep, exactly it. Fire. Interesting. Yeah, the last one we got is... We're just getting a lot of things that aren't what I selected on the banner, which is definitely fine, because, again, miraculously fascinating roll that closed out yesterday means I got 2 of that unit. But, mathematically a little weird. That's pretty neat, that's pretty neat. Oh, this is the one with the weird sword. Like, really weird sword, if you saw that. Just like, that doesn't seem practical. Where the blades are all in a line with one another, so they're not really gonna... Maybe it's explained. Maybe it's meant to represent something more magical in nature than physical. Maybe it combines the functionalities of a magical focus and a stabby object. Maybe it's meant to act like a much wider sort of sword, while still being much lighter than a really wide sword. Although I'm not sure if that works the same way for magical girls as it does for anyone else. Or maybe someone really liked the design and decided to go with it without heed of whether or not it was practical. That's also quite possible, frankly. Let us see. No other particular miracles here. I mean, it would be kind of funny. But no, okay. And the... Pretty swell, pretty swell. Yeah, I just have a lot of questions about what that sword is meant to do / represent, but, you know, we can leave that be. We can leave that be. Could be a sword breaker, you can catch the enemy sword in the prongs and twist. Yeah, that's what I was thinking in terms of, but that's having 2 forks. That's not having a complete branching line of 3 different rows of forks, right? That seems not consistent with the historical record. I mean, not that magical girls need to be consistent with the historical record, but practically speaking, I don't know. It seems like a very interesting design element. Very, very decisive. That's the word we'll go for. Yes. I mean, I suppose when you're trying to devise this number of different characters, you'll end up with quite a lot of decisive design elements. Some more eclectic than others. But, oh, you know, it does occur to me having this game loaded on a different device might have been more sensible. Oh, another Nat 4-star. The odds are interesting today. What do we get? Oh, nice! Right up again. So we'll get that. That'll be another slot. So we'll want 1 more. We'll need 1 more, or maybe 2. Actually, that isn't too crazy. Many sword breakers are 1 edge entirely replaced by hooks and spurs. Both edges being hooked is excessive. Really? I hadn't seen I hadn't seen sword breakers with an entire edge that's just so aggressively like that. Most of the examples I've seen have been only 2 prongs, 1 on either side. And then again, I think I'm remembering seeing one that had some strange mechanism in it as well. And I suppose curiosities of that sort would end up with an overly prominent representation in the Google algorithm, perhaps. But that's interesting. I might have to take a look at that. If nothing else, to properly inform my mind that this character's design is more sensible than it first appears. Oh, another one. 2 consecutive Nat 4-stars. That's quite impressive. And this one actually got a warning. I don't think the last one did. It's always a little bit fun to suss out what the pre-roll image says in terms of hinting at what you're going to get and how much information it provides. Even though realistically it doesn't grant you that much extra time in most cases. Right, the outcome of the roll is decided after whatever service on the back end of the game servers comes back and probably just sends it all as 1 bit of information. It's not as though you could, for example, cheese it by turning off the game and then re-rolling with everything intact. Oh, another copy! Very nice odds that I've been getting. Good gracious. I suppose with some offline games that is, at least was the case. But it's nice to have that couple of seconds of warning. Builds the hype. Builds the hype. I do so like building a little bit of the hype. I suppose I might also, speaking of hype and gacha games, and diverting entirely from whatever my train of thought just was, I should... kind of thinking maybe playing Honkai Star Rail on stream. I'm not entirely sure if I want to. I've been recording my gameplay on the PlayStation, actually, just to keep record of it and stuff. But, you know, it seems like the sort of game that might have some good streaming potential. Obviously, people are doing it. Come back with knowledge. Millicent is directly related to the make things not be on fire. Should not fear giving her the items. Excellent. Okay. Then that is what I shall do next time if I when I remember it. It's in my queue. I'll remember probably. It's only 3 days from now. Is it 3 days from now? What day is it? It's Tuesday. 3.5 days. Split the difference. Yes, my grasp of time is truly perfect. Take a break from the gacha to go up and apply the gems for the extra slots, I suppose. And yeah, that is...
幸せだと感じたのは家族で山登りをしたあの日だけだったけど、マサラと出会って今は他にもいろんな幸せがあるのかもって思えるようになったんだ。
That is what is needed. And I'm also going to mess with the audio balance because I think it shifted in transit. Background, sound effects. I assume that one says voice or something, but my knowledge is imperfect. I would fear showing my friend code on screen, but that's not going to matter in about 4 hours now. So I'm not particularly fussed over it.
心は今幸せ。うん。今日はマサラと一緒にカフェに行けたし。マサラは？ええ。心が幸せなら私もきっと。
Okay, nice and in order then. Which means, to be practical, I probably should actually switch to a different raid-up character. Ah, yes, the last... some of these quests I'm just not going to end up fulfilling, you know? I don't know even what some of these are. I think they're to do with leveling up or bringing X number of characters to what have you level, logging in a certain number of days. I suppose that might be the login one. That sounds about right to be the number, right? Alas. The end of days has come. A lot of the Scene 0 stuff that I just have not completed. I did complete all of these. I did complete all of the starter 5-star level ups. So that at least is nice. And they brought back, I guess, a sort of stamp rally so that people who didn't get that version of Hurrah on the pre-registration basis would be able to get her and get more copies later. So that was nice of them. I appreciate it. One thing I did also like about what they did for the NA version is they put subtitles. As you can see from my own stream setup, I do so love having nominally functional subtitles. And they had the English subtitles right at the bottom of the screen down here. And obviously that would have been something that would have been a nice feature for them to perhaps put in into the game. Even just translating some of the interface items rather than character dialogue. But yeah, since I have full slots, if we're going to use up the rest of these, we might as well pick out a new raid-up character. Have you? Anyone else fun and exciting? Fun and exciting. And that I don't already have. As much as I don't wholly remember who I already have. I want to... You know, as reasonable pick as any, I would like to know... Details about you. I think this is I have only vague knowledge of who this one is. This void element character. But let's see what the gacha gives us. Giveth and taketh away. It's a super weird experience to just be like, yeah, we gotta use up these rolls. Because of course if you're used to using your magical future knowledge to save up for things, and being free to play, every resource is of course quite carefully hoarded. But now it's just like, gotta, you know, use them or lose them. You can't take it with you when it goes. Normally it's you can't take it with you when you go, but in this case it is the game. It is the game. I mean, it would be kind of funny if some of the stuff that transferred over to the next game just happened to be some of these resources that everyone's like aggressively spending at the end of days, but I would highly doubt it. But it would be a really funny trick to pull exactly once before some game is made an example of for why you don't do that and never do it again. You never know. Maybe someone has tried it before and that's why people don't. It sounds like the sort of thing that someone would do without thinking of the impact on customer trust and morale. Yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see. No particular miracles on this first roll after changing the rate up Maguka? Nope. I would say I need to make my subtitles more well adjusted, but there's only so far I can really bring them. So I will just have to live with whatever that rendered as. There are definitely a couple of things that just are very... I'm not sure why they are rendered the way they are, actually. I mentioned it before, but if I say the word phone, that's what happens to it. And I'm not sure what it's trying to pull out of there, because you'd assume, of course, it's one of the words that I, or parts of words that I replaced with a space, right? But yeah, exactly. But I looked through my dictionary of little word replacements in terms of just looking to see if there was anything like that. And for the life of me, I could not see one. Maybe there's something wrong with the text file defining all of the replacements that I'm gonna need to have to look through a little more carefully. But I spent a decent amount of... Yeah! Like... Maybe, but like, again, I looked and it didn't seem... It didn't seem to have something like that. What I was thinking is, because keep in mind, it's not just censoring things that are there, it's censoring specifically what it heard. So I was wondering, maybe it's mishearing how I'm saying the word, perhaps. Maybe something about the language model just is aggressively hallucinating whenever I say that, right? But it's fairly consistent. Like I tried it with for example the sound stuff on just to make sure, because the software I'm using for the subtitles can also be speech to text to speech and automatically say things in that fashion. So I was trying to make sure maybe it's interpreting something strangely, but no, if I type in the word itself into the just the text to speech portion, that it gets filtered like that, but I don't see that filter in the dictionary. It's very, very strange. I'm gonna have to take a closer look. And then I think there are a couple of just other random words that, you know, you think you've gotten all of the random things you wanted to teach your subtitle machine to either edit out or not say, because no subtitle is occasionally better than a egregiously incorrect one. You think you've done a thorough job, and then you just occasionally get random words that aren't even necessarily particularly bad, but they're so egregiously incorrect that you're like, no, just replace that with nothing. I would rather you just not type things if, because I've had this system hallucinate whole sentences before, which is wild. I'm not entirely sure why it has done that, but it is something to be avoided, one might hope. I could try and change what language model it's using. There are different models you could upload or be using to process the speech, but this one works reasonably well, so I'm not sure it's worth the fiddling with. And this one has a great deal more granularity in terms of its options. And I do so like my granularity of options. Indeed, indeed. So, just keep going through these. Yep. One may yet hope to avoid the dreams of the electric sheep, it is true. I'm pretty sure that there's a Microsoft service you could use for this. Like there's paid options to integrate or to be able to use. But the fact of the matter is that it is currently not worth that amount of money to use a paid option rather than one of the perfectly good, self-contained, not internet-reliant free ones. I mean, I suppose not internet-reliant isn't a particularly useful thing for the most part, because of course if I'm actively streaming, I better be connected to the internet, otherwise the stream is coming out of the void, which, I mean, would be pretty funny, but wouldn't necessarily make sense, so... but I suppose if I were recording things offline, the necessity for internet connection might be more cumbersome. And indeed less useful. Or if I were traveling and doing pre-recorded things to then upload, perhaps. Extranet connections. Oh, perhaps I have. Perhaps I have. Perhaps indeed that knowledge has made itself known to me in the dreams prophetic of the future and all the creations of humankind. Or not. Perhaps not. Perhaps not. Good gracious. We should get through these a little faster. 24 left. We have made a significant dent. And the reason we haven't had to stop to empty out my inventory is because I shoveled every Memoria card that was not actively equipped. Oh, I think we got the gacha character. We got the rate-up banner character. There are only so many Void Maguka available, and when one's the rate-up one, you make assumptions. Let's see. Huh. Staff of Asclepius looking thing, I think, right? Or I always forget if it's Asclepius has the two coiled things or if that's a single rod, right? It is Paranel. Okay. Thought I had gotten the name right. I have this because everything of everything not being in English. Yeah, the animations are really good. That's one thing I do rather like about these, because everyone gets their own little cinematic sequence. That's super nice. But yeah, this is one of those characters I say approximate knowledge of, but in this case I really mean super vague. I think Asclepius didn't have the twin snake initially, but perhaps came over time. I feel like there was someone else who had the, because Rod of Asclepius has one snake, and I think the winged rod with two might be someone else. I thought? Maybe? Maybe not. Wait, you know what? We have the power of the internet. We are on the internet, as the point I just finished prattling on about. We can Google this. We have the power. We have the technology. Rod of Asclepius. I would like this browser that I am using, which is a perfectly normal browser, to stop defaulting. Oh. Void again. Second wit. What is these odds? Did they just kick the odds way up for the last banner? Caduceus was Hermes. Okay. Yes, that sounds correct. Thank you for doing the search. Indeed. Twin snake with the wings. Yeah, because I was like, Hermes has got the winged messenger thing going on, right? But of course they get mixed up for fairly obvious reasons. But interesting. End of service gacha luck, perhaps. Like, it wouldn't cost them anything to kick up the rates after all. And it would instill people with slightly better feelings toward their prodigious luck at the end of it. Oh, see, this. What's this nonsense? Hello? Again? Oh, you again. Hurrah. Funnily enough, that's approximately the inverse of my luck at the last roll last night, where I got, I got one new character that wasn't the rate-up one, and then two of the one I had selected, actually, so not quite the inverse, but, good gracious, that's quite a roll. They have to have poked the odds. It's entirely, I mean, it's technically possible they did it on accident with the last updates rolling out, I guess, or someone did it, covertly. Theoretically possible. Just because, they're sending out things to gather the information. Yes, indeed, the cat lady. But, yeah, because they did send out a random update, I think yesterday or something, that showed up. Maybe I was messing around with what was downloaded and the data to reinstall things. So maybe it was just that I was seeing. But I think there was like a small update, and of course they're going to be sending out other ones to get everything ready for the archive app and for the just the transfer code stuff, or the whatever the new information code will be for the spiritual successor sort of situation, right? So, entirely possible they have poked at it inadvertently or by one person doing something, but also entirely possible that not so. I don't suppose we'll ever find out, really, unless someone says something at a press release one day, which could also happen. Or on the internet. Everyone loves a good Ask Me Anything. Or a good, I don't know, corporate leak, I guess? Is that what that would count as? I don't know if the team is large enough to really call it such. Which actually brings me to question, I wonder how many of the people who worked on this game will be pulled into the next one, aside from, people in the writing and probably art positions. Just on account of, like, they're gonna need a team to keep the new app up, right? So, maybe. Rogue Dev fudging the numbers, didn't tell anyone. I mean, I'd believe it, last day out, what you gonna do? But of course I would never speak to accuse anyone of any such thing. And it's entirely possible they mentioned it as being on purpose in some sort of minor press release or a tweet or something like that. And I just missed it because, again, being out of the metaphorical and literal game for quite a hot minute there. And also all of the communications about it being in Japanese, obviously. Good golly gracious, 21 more? And then some of the other ones that I've been holding on to, so more than that. I'm probably going to need to shovel some things into the inventory a bit, just to make room once more. But let us see what we get out of things. Yeah, I haven't heard much about what this new game is. But I have to wonder what sort of form it will take, because like with Madoka, right? The, of course, ending premise about the situation with magical girls as a whole. Obviously, I would say it contraindicates some of the major potential like things you could really do in a story in that setting. It doesn't necessarily, and you could always choose to tell a story at a kind of weird place in the meta timeline, I suppose you'd call it. And of course, the whole thing they set up for this story here was basically the case that proved that there could be exceptions to the end state of canon. Things that could make it go just a little bit strange. So I guess I'm just really wondering what they plan to do for the next thing, because they have to essentially make something that will in some way be an exception, depending on what they want to have. As the story, what they want to reveal about the characters. I suppose there is that information about... There was a preview or a short animation video about another movie coming out in the near future. And obviously there's been, speculation and news about that ever since the movie, the Rebellion movie came out. So that's not strictly a new idea, because everyone and their cousin has been like, more Madoka movie. But at the same time, the new news about it, which was I came this year, I believe, is certainly more than we've had for a hot minute, right? I kind of wonder if they're going to do more things with the other spin-off properties, just in terms of not just their presence in games, but in terms of animations. Because you hear good things about some of the spin-offs, and they seem like they could be made into decent, maybe short OVAs, if nothing else, if not following the whole plot. Obviously, some of them, like Oracle Magnica, are more contentious in their popularity. Although this, that one did get additional, even more spin-off timeline manga, which, as per pattern, I have in this residence with me, but have not yet read. And I really ought to get to that. But the point stands that they were popular enough, or alternatively, the creator was devoted enough to the idea that additional work was created for them. So I have to wonder if they're going to ever do things with some of those spin-off properties, or if they're going to create, I guess, more spin-offs in the same vein. Obviously, Magia Record is kind of like that in that it had an expansive storyline. My queue is finite but large. Finite but quite a long queue, as it were. But functionally infinite. No, you're correct. If nothing else, because I keep adding to it. Such are my troubles. Indeed. In terms of the story stuff, it could be worthwhile. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that in the near future, really. Hello, Zolmonster. Glad to see you stopping by. Unfortunately, no self-promotion in here. But feel free to loiter around, and watch me blather on while trying to complete a fairly excessive number of gacha rolls before end of service today. 'Tis a fine day for rain, as it were. A fine day indeed. Speaking of fine days for rain, sometimes you're reading, well, first of all, one thing that I have recently taken to heart, learned truly in my spirit, is don't read sad novels on your phone while you're in the checkout line at Starbucks. Or any other, like, generic coffee shop, obviously, for privacy reasons. But don't do that if you don't want to look like you are just crying in the metaphorical club. Foolish of me when I know, of course, that I am specifically reading something that I know always gives me all of the emotions. And then of course I was like, no, it'll be fine. I can read this here. And then no. Foolish of me. So learn from my example. Perhaps do not. In general. But then I was also thinking it's interesting what stories, when you read them, will get all of the like emotions going with them. I suppose that depends on each person and the different things that they've experienced. But there you can, for some people can write something that's been done a million times and just write it so exceptionally well that it really is touching, and that's very neat. It's a very neat thing. And that's one of the reasons I keep adding things to my queue, because it's like, oh, there are so many very excellent stories out there, and I do want to consume them all in the non-existent time that I possess in my organs. For certain. Oh. Nope. Memoria again. I suppose I've become less expert at determining... Oh. Never mind. Perhaps again. We are on... Hoomst. Not the Rate Up Banner one either. Huh. That's pretty cool. Now you're just imagining a disembodied head crying its sockets out in the Starbucks line, and the cashier looking on in confusion. No, for sure, for real though. That's the thing. Like, the thing is, this is an establishment that this is an anonymous establishment that I go to regularly, and order the same thing every time. So like, I'm recognized there. So it's even worse. It's like, oh no. I swear, I'm having a perfectly normal day. It's just that I was a fool and read something in the checkout line. And it's like, oh no. Oh dear. Oh dear. That is the problem with a consistent presence at a location. If you are a silly fool, it stands out quite a bit more than if you are an anonymous silly fool. Silly fool, floating disembodied head or otherwise. In fairness, I'm not always disembodied, merely disembodied on stream for convenience. At some point I'll be slightly less disembodied, but that will be in some time. That will be in some time. Still sorting all that nonsense out, but something to expect for the future. I do so love the technology that goes into all of this. So pursuing it is something of why I am even here this day. The convenience of not having hands. Oh no, see, the hands are occupied on the other side of the space, operating all of this technology. You gotta have, the disembodied head watching the screen from really up close. That's why we have these glasses, You gotta be able to see things from really up close. And even then. And then everything else can be, where the technology is. Clearly, surely. That's how that works. That is definitely how that works. Yep, there's a new one and no new Memoria. Onward. I'm surprised I have not hit the limit of what I can have in this storage and had to empty it again, frankly. Obviously, this would make more sense if I was being more careful of the numbers, and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is exactly how much space I have left. No, I just emptied it down to 81 or 88 out of effectively 500. So I suppose I would be getting near that limit now, but not having fully depleted it, especially because I did quite a number of rolls last night, right? So I used up a decent number then. But I was getting super tired at that point. And I was like, I decided to end on the high note of the mildly absurd timing on that luck. Because otherwise it's entirely possible I'd not have remembered it. This is the problem with having very sketchy connectors. Very, very sketchy connectors. This is a daisy chain of... So the thing is, we've got old capture card, which has 4 angle dongles attached to one side, one going to power, one going to the USB, USB-A two-ended thing that's going into a USB-C adapter that's going into the computer. And then one's the HDMI, which is plugged into a thing that converts to USB-C. That wasn't even meant for this. I have a proper one of those that's smaller somewhere, but this is actually meant for sitting quite stationary next to a computer, not being awkwardly held in place by hand. I should find where I put the significantly smaller one at some point, because I think it would be beneficial to everything involved in this chain. And possibly a more flexible HDMI cable as well. Because this one is coiled up extremely aggressively, and this whole apparatus is perhaps overly extended in scope. Well, that's how it is sometimes, I suppose. You say don't die of cord-related deaths, but there are so many, and I guarantee I will trip on them one day, and I was going to say I will trip on them one day and knock over a whole bunch of things quite loudly and alarmingly, and merely simply die of fright. But aside from being a haunted skeleton, and therefore already exempt from that particular fate, I have in fact already tripped over quite a number of wires, and knocked down more things than I want to count at this precise moment, repeatedly, as they are right next to me, and therefore right next to all of the pile of wires that is connected to other things besides this monstrosity of a capture card apparatus. But you know, them's the breaks. Them's the breaks. I am glad that this older capture card, like, 'cause this was, it was not, like, super exceedingly cheap or anything, but it was relatively inexpensive at the time I bought it, I think, or it was, like, medium. Medium is probably correct. I shall not die again. Truly, my magical powers prevent me. And also all of the, you know, magical curse nonsense trapping me in the in this crown to haunt whatever it is currently resting upon. I could probably haunt a toaster like this. I could haunt a blender. That would be aesthetically hilarious. I could possess a blender. I must confess, this image in my mind is actually highly entertaining. I'm actively considering the prospect. That's for later. That's a later prospect. That is the grand power of creating your own image assets. It's you can quite properly depict what you're haunting, and what you're haunting is allowed to be a blender, and no one will be able to ask you questions because, well, you're not asking yourself questions. You know in your heart of hearts what you're doing. So we'll put a pin in that for another day. No, for another day. Actually, speaking of days, what day does Halloween fall on this year, I wonder? And I can just scroll right down to that. Thursday. Indeed it is. Well, something to think about. If this calendar is being correct, which, you know. Toaster bread mecha piloting the toaster. I mean, I could do that also. Truly, in my organs, I could be any number of kitchen implements. Actually, clearly I could be the most powerful one of all. I could be the coffee maker. The lord and dominion of most of the workforce, right? That's still stuck in my head whenever I'm at a loss for filling the space, why my brain immediately defaults to green is not a creative color, and variations thereupon. Which, considering the length of time since I have consumed that particular audio, is fairly impressive. Fairly impressive indeed. I suppose it could be worse. there are worse things to be stuck in your head for eternity. Let's see. Properly going through these. At speed, if you will. But yeah, I also, at some point, I mentioned, I think, yesterday as well, briefly, was thinking that I could do some amount of, perhaps, inconveniently placed ants, the bane of one's existence. The world is in sepia, it's true. But I was thinking, perhaps, of reading either short stories or parts of stories. Where in the world am I seeing this? Oh. And having small recordings thereof. Oh, come on. Minor issue. Please hold. That disconnected. This disconnects so easily. And knocks over everything I own. So sorry about the clatter. But, okay, everything's mostly in order there. No, I was saying, reading out short stories with perhaps an animation thereof. Found the weird hook sword based on the 7-branch sword, ancient ritual sword. Okay, so as long as it's based on something, I will accept it into, if not my heart, then at least my sensibilities, if it is based upon something historical. I mean, not that it has to be based on something historical, but it's definitely more palatable if it is. For certain. Okay, so that's out of there. How did that... I suppose the question is, how did multiple of these get knocked over? That's the answer. Everything gets knocked over repeatedly. If I haven't missed anything extensively. Here? Ancient ritual sword. Does bring to mind, I'm kind of curious, what sort of rituals then? She'll take a look at that in some time, perhaps. Now, where was I? Story time! Story time. Right, so I have some longer books, I have some shorter books. I'd be, optimistically looking for something that's quite aggressively public domain, although, again, as this is quite not for... Well, we have options there. So that's something to maybe look forward to. I'm still debating on whether I would want to try and do make a stream of it, or simply perhaps start out with a recording on the experimental channel, as it were, and see how well that does. So we may be seeing that in some amount of future. Not an ASMR stream. I don't think I could do justice to any form of an ASMR stream, except perhaps using the most, simply the most quiet and ignorable voice as one might. But I don't think my audio setup is particularly well designed for that either. So, while one would say never, perhaps say never. Or at least say not in the near future. Okay, we didn't miss anything wild while we were floundering about trying to replug things in. Good. All in order. We're mostly in order. Still a good number of these left to go. Speaking of such things as ants, I suppose, it's extremely strange that we have them in this particular in the particular fashion we do, because they're confined predominantly to one room, and that's understandable because that room contains food of which crumbs may develop. But some rooms, it's very strange indeed that ants might frequent them, because no open food particularly, resides therein, and sometimes they just sort of are in the bathroom, and they emerging from the drain, and I'm at a loss as to why that might be. So, in terms of minor, moderately, potentially haunted mysteries, let that one live with you. But as for that, let us see. We're only at 11 left of these. Actually, let's take a check. 11 left here, 28 single tickets. Okay, only 4 more 10 tickets, so that's not an obscene amount, but it may be wise to... I don't remember if this is the correct section of the inventory. It is. It may be wise to set away a couple of these. Whoop, not what I wanted. Not the information panel. This is the putting things away panel. Yeah, because we were about to hit 400. We actually have there's about 100 units of I suppose, grace over that cap, where you can't put items back in, but you can have them in there without running into space limitations. But of course, we don't want to be doing that while we're in the middle of rolling. Ants will occasionally take inefficient routes due to pheromone trailing that could be moving past the room in question, and due to unknown obstacles, decide that room is a good teacher. Yeah, that would make sense. Or if they were perhaps exploring and being troublesome. The thing is, like, I found it to be, I'd say, decently effective. I suppose rather not ineffective to spray with 99% isopropyl alcohol for a time, and that wards them off a bit. But then, of course, when that has worn away, they return, and it is quite a fair amount of trouble. Quite a fair amount of trouble. And it does make for some questionable, or perhaps very pointed decisions in terms of the decoration or coloration choices of items. Because I'm not principally opposed to, for example, busy patterns on things, and indeed having like more dark-colored furniture or goods. But as a consequence of quite how many incidents with ants we've had, I find myself gravitating toward the most boring of plain white or solid but light-colored objects. When given the opportunity to pick, simply because it will be easier to discern whether or not the ants have troubled them. That's a very vexing thing to be dealing with. So I do hope that... Well, that's loading. I hope it's loading. I do hope in the future that that may not be so much of a necessity, but at this time it certainly is. Yeah, sorry for the noise. Of course, one of the other, yeah, it is a solution, but it is an annoying one to have to make use of, I will say, for certain. Let's see, are there any of these I could just shovel the random XP into? That's not the button I wanted. Oh, yeah, that's more readable. But speaking of solutions, question mark, I do have a bunch of I'm slowly becoming convinced I should perhaps move at least a couple of the items that are cough cough hanging from my mic arm, because I run into them not overly often, but not 0%, and I know they must be a fair bit louder from the other end of the stream. So I might move some of the more egregiously placed ones, because I just have a veritable curtain of acrylic keychains and a couple of pins that I have carefully attached to the acrylic keychains, just sort of descending down from it like a waterfall, which, while aesthetically pleasing to my eye, is not the most... Is ergonomic the word? I'm not sure it really is. Not the most something, for sure. Well, that is the most something else. Most, excessive, perhaps. Let's see. Trying to get these all out of here. Because the time is coming. The time is coming. We've got like 100 more. Yeah, if we're to be wrapping this up, then... Okay, we've spent these up. And again, the very last dailies. The very last dailies. I'm interested to know if the slow loading is a product of my internet. I don't know what's going on there. Or something about the end of service behavior. But, well, let's see it. Let's see it through and see it out. Because 11 more of these. And then another 4. And then I guess we can do the singles. They'll take a hot second. They're not likely to amount for overly much. But those and the remaining gems, why not? Why not, I say? I probably shouldn't skip the preview page like that. I don't know, it's the impatience. It's the desire to rush headlong toward the finish line, to see the ending of all things, I say in the most dramatic fashion. But, the sentiment is not untrue, for sure. What have we here? We're actually going to hit pity again, I think, if I'm regarding that correctly. Not this roll, but the next one if we don't get anything overly much in this round. Let's see, yeah? No, 2 more. And we have a great number of those coins saved up. So we can probably spend them on... I suppose that'll be the harder choice still, rather than letting randomness dictate its work. Just spending the remainder of the coins and seeing who we want to pick up a single copies of. We skipped through the thing again! Ah, good gracious. That impatience. It's exactly the trouble. Oh, rainbow? No, nope. Memoria. I believe they made standees, like acrylic standees, of some of those Memoria. Yeah, skip. It starts off as shout and skip, but then you regret it if you accidentally skip over a very fancy cutscene or something. That has happened more times than not. All right, about to hit pity. It's nice that it's a clearly defined number in this regard, although I suppose the lack of guarantees in terms of if you'll get the banner character or not, or is its own trade-off. All right. Oh, yep. Well, I mean, I suppose that of course you're gonna get that. It'd be interesting if we got it first, but nope. That was 99, and this is 100. I'd say unless I miscounted, but it would be foolish to have miscounted when there were only 2 left. And then this should be, unless we get another void character, this should be a 3rd copy. Yep, 3rd copy. So after this, I want to go apply those copies appropriately. I do definitely wonder what aspects of people's accounts that they plan to bring into the next game, because obviously you wouldn't want it to be something aggressively practically advantaging, because then that would put a bunch of people starting it quite far ahead of others, unless the game was going to be was not going to have a PvP element, but like minor PvP interaction elements sell. I'm given to understand. That's a thing that people want. That's a thing that people like. I'm not sure if this additional copy was necessary, but I'll take it. They definitely messed with the odds. They had to have. Truly, for sure. Yep, and then the last one of these. Better not be a third one. It would be really funny, but like, best not be the joke. Okay, got that. Heard so much. We've heard this music so much over the years. Because this is music that's also in Madoka. A lot of the music in Magia Record actually is, so it becomes at least the game listened and wasn't the same, another copy of the same one again. Good gracious, these odds. Haru? Good golly gracious. Wild, I tell you. Absolutely wild. Oh, I should have been adding stream markers whenever I get weird rolls like this. I'm gonna have to skim back to get the last one for sure. Yep. This is one of the just sort of ambient traveling around musics, I believe it was. Something also to revisit for sure. But yeah, let us see. Okay, that's an order. And we've got 3 here. Okay. Okay, if I heard that right, then this is then she is one of the characters in Tart Magica. I was never quite clear about where she came into things, or it's possible she was just part of the events in this game that elaborated upon the story presented in that spin-off. But yeah, I actually apparently that was the exact correct number. I stand corrected. I was thinking we had one more than we did, which would have been, of course, unnecessary. But no. Strange things that we acquire in these trying times, I suppose. Oh. Is that the one I wanted to... Oh, right, no, yeah. Levels. I'm finding myself wanting to have all of such things as levels in order, at least a little bit. I hit the button, come on. Maybe I didn't hit the button. It's entirely possible I remembered reflexively hitting the button and did not. Okay. And then if it loads, which is acting up on the last day, which isn't a great sign. Alright. And again, I like having the option to properly grab screen caps. Alright then. We'll hold on to those. Not that there's much left to be holding them on for, but just in case we get another character who needs them, perhaps. I'll put these in order here. You know, in retrospect, looking at how slowly these are getting used up, it definitely was a bit aggressive on the dailies for a while there. And just... not using everything. But well, that's what we have. Okay, so then we get to pick one more. One more these days. Who do we have? I believe this is the character that was added to the anime spun off this game. For a while there was some speculation that she was the same as a throwaway character, or like not throwaway. It seems rude, but like a one-off character from one of the Valentine events, just because of the introduction with having the black cloak and that one character not being shown well, and also both being referred to as Kuro, I think. But of course, that's not exactly the most unique name in all of anime. In all of God and anime, as it were, so that wouldn't necessarily be telling, and indeed, I believe I'm given to know that they are quite thoroughly not the same. But... did I get the Scene Zero version? I'll be honest, I do not remember. I don't think I have you. Do I? Well, it's the last couple of rolls, so if I don't, we're about to find out. 'Tis the way of things, I suppose. Wow, the loading time is, I wonder... That's interesting. No, because the time itself should be still a couple hours in the future, so I wonder if it's an issue with the server load, perhaps, of literally everyone logging on all at once to say goodbye, or something like that, perhaps. Or maybe they've already started shutting things down and are leaving up... I'm not sure how wise that would be in terms of scheduling, but then again, you never know. Could be, it could be, it could be. Alright, so let's get the last few of these out then. Oh, immediately. I mean, not guaranteed to be the selected, you know, banner character, but it may be auspicious. Auspicious enough to be so. Nope, fire. I mean, we could have another one of those wildly fortunate happenings. Oh, neat. I believe this is another one of the Tart Magica characters, a red dragon of sorts. Yeah, that's given there. But, neat. I'm curious to know if we'll get any peculiarities in this role, or if that was, merely a fortunate and early, one-off. We shall see. It's always interesting that they get so many different artists to do the card art. I wonder how they select who they're hiring for those, or Gun Halberd. Yeah. I mean, it's a strategy. Sometimes you just have to make all of your melee weapons be gun, which is a very Ruby way of looking at things, actually. Come to think of it. I suppose, in general, that is one of those things that people are like, well, if you have one weapon, you can make it do two things. Until you run into the efficiency thereof. But of course, in fiction, why, no one need take into account such things as material strength and optimize balance and what have you. I don't actually know the laundry list of things that would go into why that wouldn't be ideal. I suppose mechanical complexity, and whatnot, but yeah, neither stand out in any direction, but that was a good to have. Okay, that's the next. If it loads. Which is looking to be in even more doubt. Okay, what does this actually say? I have the power of, well, I'd say God in anime, but I really mean Google Translate and another device camera. And it's searching. Please try again in a location with better communication environment. Ah. Yeah, it's something about the signal then. Is it the... Other devices are showing somewhat peculiar Wi-Fi behavior. I wonder if this might be trying to connect to a substandard connection that's around. I'm going to exercise the good judgment to not try and open my Wi-Fi information on stream, but I will definitely be taking a look at it later. Gun axes were a thing used by Polish cavalry as a sidearm. Were they good? Probably not, but they were had. That is pretty cool. I have seen examples of, I think it was like a sword something that had a gun involved. Like a holdout sort of pistol deal. Where I know there are people definitely across time who have decided, ah yes, the solution to my woes is to attach a gun to a melee weapon. For better or for worse, perhaps. So, neither unheard of nor overly uncommon, but I suppose they'd be more common if they were. Well, then again, I suppose it's the opposite that really happened more, right? What if you could shoot and stab? Because that's like bayonets, right? People went the other way, and that worked out, apparently, it seems, a fair bit better in terms of attaching the stab to the shoot, rather than the shoot to the stab.
Magia
A button for that. Need to really remember that. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't, I'm going to temporarily disconnect this visually, and yeah, you know, make your stabby object be a part of your other long object, and just make it be a thing. Alright, I'm going to disconnect this briefly, so we are not showing my internet details on stream, and instead I am showing them to myself. And figuring out, is this connected to the wrong Wi-Fi? It's not. Which is novel. So we're going to restart that. Yeah, it's showing us full bars too, which is interesting. Interesting indeed. I mean, it might just be it's next to a whole bunch of things causing interference, but it was working fine in approximately this same setup before. Though, to be fair, this was more because World War I was a time when people didn't know what the future of war would look like, so give the linemen spears to charge into the enemy. Yeah, I suppose that too would also do it. Were bayonets a thing before World War I, though? Like, because, like, muskets and stuff had been a thing for, you know, good 2 centuries prior. So you'd think, perhaps, someone would have had the idea. Okay, let's try this with not the Wi-Fi, but instead the cellular connection. They were with muskets, yeah, so... I mean, I suppose back at that point, too, it was also the same sort of... a matter of the guns were not always going to do you much good as you close the range, and with a slower reloading speed, it wouldn't be as necessary to or not necessary, but rather it wouldn't always be as doable to keep the appropriate range, and sometimes you just end up in melee range and blocks of interest, so old melee tactics were a thing. Right, yeah, blocks and lines of people just arranged in rows, shooting / charging, yeah? That's what the pictures show, but I haven't made a study of it. Yeah, we're on mobile connection. We're on cellular connection now. Yay for infinite data. Woohoo. Although it's looking like it's still not optimal. But it actually loaded this time. And now it unloaded. Okay. Is this like a where it's physically placed situation? It's always a little bit funny when things unload like this into a black screen, but it still shows the character models. It's like a sort of a DIY green screen situation. Yep. And sometimes you end up with them appearing in very strange ways. I should definitely track down some of the screenshots I have of the old during the NA shutdown, because some of them were a little bit strange, so shall we say. But I think that either the connection or possibly my actual phone temperature is telling me that we are going to be ending the gacha here with, unfortunately, a couple of rolls left. So I don't expect anything particularly notable to come of them. And when this cools down, I might do the rest. But I think that device is going to sit over there quietly and think about what it's done in its heart. Yep. Sometimes, and that phone has not been known for being wonderful at cooling. So it's possible if I'd used a different device and loaded everything up there, it might have worked a little better. But this was meant to be a short stream, and I see we have quite fortuitously just hit the 2-hour mark. So then, I suppose that shall be all for tonight, dear listeners. Thank you for tuning in. And again, reminder, we do have the VOD channel that exists, and the VODs go up on YouTube within a day or two of stream. I'm gonna upload yesterday's, now that I've edited it, and then I'll be adding this one shortly thereafter. At some point, I will have edited content on the main channel, starting with the, mildly edited debut clip. I should really get around to that. It'll show up eventually. Yep, good night. And in the meanwhile, until next time, take care, travel safe, don't fall over, and remember, you are precious, unique in all the world. You are irreplaceable. Each and every one of you, listening here in the present, or perhaps in the future. So, Rest well, dear listeners, and good night.